I'm now going to talk about the 5 different research designs, and the first one being a case study. Case study is an in-depth investigation of a single person, group, or community, usually data gathered from things like interviews or observations. For example, you could be collecting anthropometric figures for an under-18s female British gymnast. This would be things such as height and weight and things like that. And you could record the development of the gymnast over 5 or 10 years. Positives of a case study are that it allows you to collect rich data and give you an unbiased overview, as well as giving you results that can be used to improve lifestyle. For example, if you do this study and find out that you're fairly overweight, then you could use this to uncover that information and then obviously find ways to reduce your weight. Negatives of a case study, however, are that it can take a very, very long time to collect, and it sometimes can't be generalised to the wider population. It is also very difficult to draw a definitive cause and effect from the case studies. Another type is comparative data. Comparative data analysis is when you compare your data or results in comparative analysis. Ratios are analysed in which a firm's ratios can be compared with industry averages. For example, measuring and comparing vertical jump tests of young gymnasts aged from 12 and 16. The positives of this type of data are that it allows you to compare to normative data, which allows you to work out the top standard, and it also can help you compare athletes to fellow competitors. However, if you were to compare to normative data, this could therefore be subject to bias. Another type of research design is longitudinal. A longitudinal study is an observational research method in which data is gathered for the same information regularly over a long period of time. Longitudinal studies can last years and even up to decades. An example of this is if you did a test to see whether doing particular stretches every day for 2 years will gradually increase a gymnast's flexibility. Positives of longitudinal studies are that they are effective in determining variable patterns over time. Another is that they are able to ensure clear focus and validity, as well as being flexible, so focus can be shifted while researchers are collecting data. However, there are negatives, including factors such as they require huge amounts of time and they require a large sample size. Another research design is correlational study, and a correlational study are used to look for relationships between variables. There are 3 possible results of a correlational study: positive correlation, a negative correlation, and no correlation. An example of correlational study is there a line between stretching and An example of this could be something like, is there a link between stretching and a British female athlete's performance on the floor? Positives of this type of research are that it determines whether there is a link between 2 variables, as well as allowing researchers to collect a lot more data than experiments. The negatives of this, however, are that it only uncovers a relationship and can't provide a conclusion, and that it doesn't reveal which variable influences the other. Another type of data is a cross-sectional, and this is a type of observational study that analyzes data from a population or a representative subset at a specific point in time. An example of this is that if you measure the height of a British female athlete can jump when they turn 16 and then every 2 years until they turn 22 after that. Positives of this type of study are that they're quick and an easy way of analysing data. This type of data also comes at a low cost, so not much money needs to be spent on collecting this type of data. However, this could be subject to bias and cannot determine why it happens or the effect. It also cannot be used to analyse the behaviour. Another type of research design is an experiment, which is a procedure carried out to support or validate a hypothesis. They provide an insight into cause and effect by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is manipulated. An example of this could be something along the lines of, does substance A affect the flexibility of a young female British gymnast within their hamstrings? Positives of this type of study is that they are straightforward and efficient, and they should be repeatable to make it reliable. They are also usually done in a controlled environment, meaning better results can be achieved. However, experiments are usually very expensive as they require the use of a lab, and this cannot always be available to some people. They can also be subjective or subject to human error, making the results inaccurate and can create artificial situations. There are 4 different classifications of data in sport and exercise science that are discrete, ordinal, nominal, and continuous. Discrete data is data that deals with separate isolated values. For example, questions that are yes/no answers, or that only have 2 possible answers, like what hand are you, and that would obviously only be left or right. An example of this is that if you were to use a sample of gymnasts and ask them what hand they were to go into a handstand using, so obviously they can only answer whether they go in with their left hand first or their right hand first. Ordinal data is data that is ranked in order, like a league table. However, it doesn't give you differences between first and second. An example of this would be ranking gymnasts from best to worst at their sit and reach test scores. Another type is nominal, which provides information about a group or a set of events. For example, if you wanted to know how well a particular set of gymnasts did in a competition over the last 5 years, you would then be able to find out what position they came in the particular competition over the last 5 years and plot that in a graph to see how well they did over the last 5 years. The final classification of data is continuous, which has 2 types of data: they are interval and ratio. Interval data is data where the answers could go into minus figures. For example, with temperature, that could obviously go from 10 to minus 10. However, ratio data does not do this and may talk about things like heart rate that obviously can't go into a minus number or below 0.